Imagine you're standing in the heart of Ouagadougou, where Burkina Faso once shimmered with hope under a golden sunset. The air is thick with the scent of dry earth and the faint hum of life. A quiet evening where families gathered on porches, dreaming of a democratic dawn after years of turmoil. But as the sun dips below the horizon, under the flickering glow of streetlights, whispers begin to rise. About a man, Ibrahim Traoré, and a decision that turned their world upside down. In the spring of 2024, he stood before the nation, his voice steady with promise vowing to guide Burkina Faso back to democracy after the coup that had shaken its foundations. His words were a lifeline for those who had suffered, farmers whose fields were reduced to ashes by terrorism, mothers clutching their children as they fled the relentless advance of jihadists' young students who yearned for a voice in their future. But just months ago, in a move that left the country reeling, he declared with unwavering resolve, "We need 5 more years." For many, that wasn't just an announcement, it was a gut punch that shattered their fragile hope. The farmers wondered if their land would ever be theirs again. The mothers feared for their children's safety, and the students questioned if their dreams would ever see the light. Is 5 more years a chance to rebuild from the rubble, or just another broken promise slipping through their calloused hands? I've walked the dusty streets, sat with families in their modest homes, shared meals with villagers, listened to the raw emotions of analysts, and even caught glimpses of the inner workings from the shadowed corners of the government. And today we're embarking on a journey together to uncover the truth. Why did Traoré choose this path? And where will it lead this resilient, battered nation? So let's dive in. Hit subscribe to join me on this unfolding story and don't miss what comes next. The shocking decision to extend the transition to 2029 was unveiled on May 25, 2024, during a highly publicized national dialogue, a moment broadcast live across radios and TVs drawing millions of eyes. Unlike Mali, which stretched its transition by 5 years, only to stumble into political chaos with failed elections in 2022, leaving its people disillusioned and its economy in tatters, Traoré's bold move has sent shockwaves across the globe. Think back to Zimbabwe under Robert Mugabe, where repeated election delays, justified by vague security concerns, eroded international trust, plunged the nation into economic collapse, and left a legacy of isolation that still lingers. Here, Traoré leans heavily on security, as his justification pointing to the grim reality over 600 lives lost, and 6 million people displaced since early 2025, a toll driven by the relentless jihadist attacks that have scarred the northern regions. But is that the full picture, or just the surface of a deeper strategy? Digging into history, we see a pattern, a common mistake where leaders use security threats as a convenient excuse to stall democratic progress, a tactic that not only damages their credibility, but also sows seeds of distrust among their own people. Take the case of 2008 in Zimbabwe, where Mugabe's government delayed elections, citing violence only to face crippling sanctions and a fractured society. Or consider Egypt in 2013, where the military postponed democracy under the guise of stability, leading to years of authoritarian rule. The lesson here is clear and urgent. Any decision, especially one as monumental as this, demands unwavering transparency. Without it, Traoré risks being branded a dictator, a label that could haunt his legacy, alienate his allies, and fracture his nation further as the stakes grow higher with each passing day. So is this truly a security crisis, or a calculated power grab? Traoré's motives run deeper than his public statements let on. His alliance with Russia, marked by the arrival of military advisors and advanced weaponry, his dramatic withdrawal from ECOWAS in a defiant stand, and his heavy reliance on the armed forces to maintain order, paint a picture of a leader intent on consolidating personal power. Contrast this with Abraham Lincoln, who in 1864 held elections amidst the raging Civil War, a testament to his belief that democracy could endure even in the darkest times, proving that strong leadership doesn't require sacrificing the people's voice. Then there's Sudan in 2019, where the military's delay in transitioning power ignited a civil war that still simmers, displacing millions and leaving a power vacuum that foreign actors rushed to fill. A chilling cautionary tale with echoes here. ACLED data paints a stark picture. The terrorism threat is real, with northern villages under constant siege, but it also hints that this might be a pretext for Traoré to tighten his grip, using the chaos as a shield to extend his rule. The frequent pitfall here is a leader's obsession with personal power over the nation's long-term well-being, a trap we've seen play out in Venezuela, where Nicolas Maduro clung to control amid a collapsing economy driving millions into poverty. The takeaway: a leader must strike a delicate balance between addressing security concerns and upholding democratic values to maintain the trust and support of their people, a challenge Traoré now faces with every decision he makes as the clock ticks toward an uncertain future. The public's reaction is a firestorm sweeping through the streets, a roar of defiance that can't be ignored. In Ouagadougou, a recent survey conducted just last week by local activists reveals a staggering 60% of residents oppose this extension, a figure that mirrors the deep frustration boiling over in their hearts. This echoes the Black Lives Matter movement in the United States, where communities rose against perceived injustices, their voices amplified across cities, sparking a national reckoning that reshaped policies. Look at Nigeria in 2020, where protests against President Buhari's heavy-handed tactics erupted into widespread violence, leaving scars that linger in the collective memory, a risk Burkina Faso now teeters on the edge of. Here, Traoré's 2023 Mobilization Act, originally designed to bolster security against jihadists, is being wielded as a tool to silence dissent, with reports of peaceful demonstrations met with tear gas arrests and even beatings in the streets. This tension is a powder keg. If ignored, it could explode into civil unrest or even a full-blown war that tears the nation apart. A common mistake leaders make is turning a deaf ear to their people's voices, a misstep that not only causes instability, but also erodes the very foundation of governance, as seen in Syria, where Assad's repression fueled a decade-long conflict. The lesson: engaging with the public, hearing their fears, their hopes, and their anger is the cornerstone of lasting peace, a principle Traoré must embrace to avoid a tragic outcome that could define his rule for generations. ECOWAS finds itself at a crossroads, wrestling with a tough decision that could shape the region's future. The regional body insists on the original 2024 deadline, a firm stance rooted in its charter, but has offered a 6-month grace period until July 29, 2025, in a bid for reconciliation and to give Traoré a chance to reconsider. This differs sharply from the European Union's aggressive sanctions on Belarus in 2021, which crippled the economy, isolated the population, and failed to dislodge the leadership, proving that brute force alone isn't always the answer. Consider Mali in 2022, where ECOWAS imposed an economic blockade that starved civilians of food and medicine, not the junta, a misstep that backfired, fueling resentment and strengthening the military's resolve. The challenge now is to balance punitive measures with humanitarian support, especially as Traoré increasingly aligns with Russia, a move that could complicate regional dynamics and draw in global powers. The frequent error here is overzealous sanctions that harm the innocent, rather than targeting the regime directly, a lesson from history where unintended consequences, like mass migration or economic collapse, outweighed intended pressure, as seen in Iraq's 1990 sanctions. The insight: a smart blend of diplomacy, dialogue, and measured sanctions offers a more effective path forward, one that ECOWAS must navigate carefully to influence Traoré without plunging Burkina Faso into a deeper crisis that could spill across borders. What lies ahead for this proud nation? The future teeters on a knife edge between civil war and international intervention, a scenario with stakes that reach far beyond its borders. Reflect on President Biden's 2021 withdrawal from Afghanistan, where flexibility and careful planning were key to managing a chaotic exit, showing that adaptability can mitigate disaster and preserve some semblance of order. Then there's Libya in 2011, a painful example where NATO's intervention intended to liberate the people instead unleashed a decade of chaos, factional fighting, and a power vacuum that foreign actors rushed to exploit, leaving the country in ruins. For Traoré, the stakes couldn't be higher. He could lose power if he fails to shift course and address the growing discontent. Yet he holds a rare chance to regain trust by listening to his people, engaging with the international community, and proving his intentions are for the nation's good. The common mistake is ignoring the lessons of history, a trap that leads to repeated failures, as seen in Iraq's post-2003 instability, where missteps fueled insurgency, or in Somalia, where clan rivalries filled the void left by weak governance. The most profound lesson leaders, whether in Burkina Faso or across the globe, must weave together the threads of security and democracy to forge a path to lasting success, a challenge that will define Traoré's legacy in the months and years to come, shaping not just his nation, but the continent's future. That's the story for now. Hit subscribe to catch the next chapter and leave your thoughts in the comments. See you tomorrow.